She's outside. There's no kids around her. She told me she doesn't speak English and keeps walking up our trail with a knife.
But she came out at someone with a knife, though, right? Or did she just have it? Okay.
She the knife onto the property in her hand.
Okay.
She didn't try and attack anybody or anything.
Chatsworth, we're 10-4. I'm out with him.
Why did you not stop?
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
Stop.
Easy.
Okay. What's this? Where's the
It's on your chest there.
Go pull. It's okay.
This 87-year-old grandmother who doesn't speak English and needs help getting upstairs.
She's outside. There's no kids around her. She told me she doesn't speak English and keeps walking up our trail with a knife.
A worker at a Boys and Girls Club in Chatsworth, Georgia, called police Monday after seeing her walking with a knife in a field on their property. It turns out she lives across the street and is from Syria. It was a steak knife, and she was there picking dandelions, which her family explains was meant for a salad for her husband. Police say she even had a bag full of cut weeds. Even the worker who called 911 said she wasn't threatening.
But she came out at someone with a knife, though, right? Or did she just have it? Okay.
The knife onto the property in her hand.
Okay.
She didn't try and attack anybody or anything.
Police arrived with guns drawn, telling her to put down the knife, but say she wouldn't. They say they even threw a knife to the ground, trying to explain what they wanted her to do. When she kept walking towards them, they shot her with a stun gun. The police chief was there during the incident.
I deployed the taser rather than using deadly force.
He says his officer acted appropriately. Her family says at her age, the shock could have killed her.
She's recovering, still a little shook up, a little sore from what she's, gone through.
I don't always encounter 87-year-old great-grandmothers who are holding knives, not bothering anybody while I'm wearing my body armor and outweigh them by about 100 pounds. But when I do, I like to pull out my taser and shoot them and watch them drop paralyzed to the ground.
Last August, there was a horrible event in which an 87-year-old grandmother was tased in her breast for failing to understand police when they told her to drop a knife she was using to reportedly cut flowers. Now, nearly a year later, the body camera footage of the insane brutality against Martha al-Bashara has been released. According to WRCB, they spoke to al-Bashara's granddaughter by phone on Wednesday. She says her family is aware of the video, but it's been hard for some of them to watch. Their attorney, Jeff Dean, shared the video with Channel 3 on the family's behalf. Here's the story from WRCB.
For the first time, we're seeing police body camera video showing the moment an 87-year-old woman was tased by a Chatsworth, Georgia police officer.
It happened shortly after a Boys and Girls Club employee called 911 telling dispatchers Martha al-Bashara was on their property with a knife picking dandelions. Channel 3's Tanisha Cordell spoke with her attorney today. She joins us in the studio. Tanisha.
Well, Greg, first off, I spoke to Al-Bashara's granddaughter by phone today as well. She says her family is aware of the video, but it has been hard for some of them to watch. Their attorney shared it with us on their behalf. What you're seeing was captured nearly a year ago. The video from a Chatsworth police officer's body camera shows the moments before and after 87-year-old Martha Al-Bashara was tased.
Stop! Throw it down! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! You're gonna get tased!
This was shortly after a 911 caller spotted Al-Bashara on the Boys and Girls Club's property, cutting dandelions with a knife. The officers who responded repeatedly told Al-Bashara to put the knife down. Moments later, one of the officers fires his stun gun.
Okay, first of all, it's BS that the only body cam footage they have of this event is from a third officer approaching the other two officers who were the direct aggressors on Al-Bashara. And it looks like this third cop is a good 20 to 30 feet away when the tasing starts.
The officers continue shouting, telling the woman to put her knife down. The 87-year-old screams as she falls to the ground.
Why did you not stop?
Al-Bashara was arrested and charged with obstruction of an officer and criminal trespassing.
Now, just stop and think about the insanity of this situation. You have these three male officers on the scene against one 87-year-old woman. The men in blue are heavily armed, are wearing body armor, and compared to this woman, they're highly trained in defensive measures. And on top of all this, these don't look like small guys. What kind of pansy do you have to be to pull a taser on an old woman? I don't care if she's coming at you with nunchucks and bamboo rods. You really don't think you can take her? Even if she was Bruce Lee's great-grandmother, you guys don't think you could have disarmed her and de-escalated the situation without having to use your taser? You can almost imagine the discussion they had in their patrol car before arriving on the scene.
Hey, Billy, what do you want to do today? I don't know, but we got plenty of time before we head back to the station. Well, it's been a slow day and we hadn't terrorized anybody yet. Hey, there's that call they just put out about the 87-year-old woman. You thinking what I'm thinking? Taser? Oh, yeah. God, I love when they drop to the ground like that. All right, let's go get her. You better believe we're going to get her. She ain't done something wrong. We're going to find something.
Look how big these guys are. Look at the neck on this sucker. And this putting the hands of the elderly behind their backs is also worthy of ridicule. This woman poses no threat to these guys, and claiming that you feared for your safety makes these nitwits a laughingstock in the eyes of normal men who aren't pussies.
Her attorney, Jeff Dean, says this should have never happened.
The language barrier was obviously a problem in this case, but the fact was that there was no need to tase her. There was no danger.
Dean says since then, the 87-year-old from Syria has not been the same.
She used to spend a lot of time outside. She does not do that anymore. She's not quite as trusting of other people anymore. She's a lot more, I guess, nervous, just being afraid.
When we reached out to the Chatsworth police chief in August, he sent a statement saying in part, the last thing any member of our department wanted to do was use a taser on an elderly female.
It's really strange that the last thing they wanted to do was the first thing they ended up doing.
However, when she began to walk towards the officer from an elevated position with a knife, the officer used the most reasonable amount of force that he could at the time.
Did you get a load of that BS? She began to walk towards the officer from an elevated position with a knife. I could just see him talking to his sergeant right now.
Honest to God, Sarge, she came at me from an elevated position. You gotta be kidding me, an elevated position? Yes, Sarge, swear to God, she had the drop on me. Holy cow, you didn't tell me that. Yep, elevated position, swear to God. Well, hot damn, Billy, you should have told me. No wonder you had to tase her. Yes, Sarge. When she come at me from that elevated position, my life literally flashed before my eyes.
We reached out again today, but Chief Josh Etheridge said the department's insurance company has advised him not to comment. Well, al-Bashar's attorney plans to file a lawsuit claiming excessive force was used in that arrest. But he says al-Bashar has no ill will against the officers or the police department. He says she loves the community she has lived in for the past 20 years. He expects that lawsuit will be filed within the next 2 months.
The bad part about winning this case is that taxpayers are the ones who foot the bill on these things, while the cops usually get a slap on the wrist and move to another department in another county to terrorize a fresh batch of people.